Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic and wonderful and amazing. I get a lot of questions about my time in the Marine Corps, and I don't know that we've ever really talked about it much. I've interlaced it here and there. So I thought I would put together this little talk about my time in the Marine Corps and my experiences in the Marine Corps so I can point people to it. Because I feel like when people find out that I'm a Marine, or I was a Marine, or however you want to look at it, there's a little bit of shock, right? Because I don't exactly exemplify what the normal person's perception of a Marine is. I'm not particularly physically fit or particularly aggressive or alpha, whatever you want to call it. And in fact, when I was in the Marines, I didn't exemplify a Marine. So it's just something that I did. It was a part of my life. For those of you that remember the story, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. I signed up and I shipped off to boot camp about a month or two after I graduated high school because I had some other stuff that I was doing at that time. And I joined the Marines. At that point in my life, I was kind of on a downward spiral. I was practically failing out of high school. I had barely passing grades. When I say barely, I mean that I graduated high school, I think, with a 1.7, with a D average. And I had no desire to continue with public education. I had no desire to continue with higher education. I wasn't going to pay somebody to teach me, the shit that I'd been taught for 12 years. I wanted to learn programming. I wanted to learn sciences. I did not want to learn more freaking English or more freaking history or more freaking math. I didn't want any of the garbage that I didn't want to learn. I wanted to learn what I wanted to learn. And so when the opportunity came to join the Marines, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing where I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll join the Marine Corps. And then I did it. And it turned out to be a pretty amazing choice. At that point in time, if we roll the clock back, it was 1996. I was 17 years old, and I had just kind of gotten into the gaming industry at 16, 17. I met David May at United States Playing Cards, who invited me to help with the X-Files card game, and I ended up traveling to a lot of conventions that year, helping promote the game. I also kind of helped to look at some preliminary versions of some sets that never saw the light of day. I also got to help with some other games along that journey, and when the next year rolled around, I did some more conventions in '97, and then I had to go to boot camp. And my plan at that time was to be a programmer. I signed up to be a programmer, and I took the tests, and I aced the tests. I got like nearly perfect scores on the computer programming tests. I got a nearly perfect ASVAB score. And about 2 months before I went to boot camp, the field closed, and I couldn't be a programmer. So my recruiter said, we'll put you in open contract, and with all of your high test scores, they'll give you a good job. And I ended up being a warehouseman, which is the second lowest ASVAB score requirement job in the Marines, below infantry. So there's infantry, and then there's warehouseman, right? Like, you don't need any qualifications to be a warehouseman. And what I learned later on in life, or later on in my service, was that when it comes time to assign jobs to the open contract, they just have a stack of the open contract people, and they go, all right, I need 10 for this, and they just pick 10, and there you go. And so I just got thrown into that stack, and it's literally like a stack of folders. It's a stack of your service record, right? It was, at that time, it was on paper. So I ended up getting picked to be a warehouseman, and I got to pick my duty stations, which you list like the 3 that you would like to do. And so my plan, being that I had just kind of gotten into the gaming industry, which was kind of a dream of mine, I wanted to be on the East Coast. And the surest way to end up on the East Coast was to do a year of overseas duty. And so I picked Okinawa. I wanted to go to Okinawa, and what I heard was nobody wants to go to Okinawa, so if you pick Okinawa, you're going to go to Okinawa. I said, great. So I picked Okinawa. My plan was Okinawa was 1 year. You go there, and when you get off of your overseas duty tour, you usually get to pick, like, I'm going here next, right? So my plan was go to Okinawa for a year, And then I could pick Camp Lejeune, which is on the East Coast. I could come back, and then I could continue to do the board gaming stuff as well as be a Marine. And I had always just planned on 4 and out. That was it. I was never doing more than 4 years. What ended up happening was I got stationed in Hawaii. And Hawaii is a lot like Okinawa, except it's about 4 times more expensive, and it's not an overseas duty. So because it's not overseas, because it's part of the United States, it's a 3-year tour. And because it's not overseas, I did not receive overseas pay, which meant that to come home, I had to spend something like $1,000 to $1,500 in air travel, which was, at that point in time, I was making $12,000 a year. So I had to spend a month and a half salary to make it, and that was gross. That was just what before taxes, right? So I basically didn't get to come home. I came home, I think, maybe twice in the 3.5 years I spent in Hawaii. I hated Hawaii. I did not like it at all. I liked aspects of it. And I still dream about aspects of it. I still dream about the food. I still dream about the friends. I made a lot of friends, and there was a huge gaming community and Magic. We played a lot of Magic. We played a lot of D&D. We played a lot of board games. There was a big community of that, and I miss that. But the island itself, the tropics, I don't miss at all. At all. I do miss the scuba diving. I really enjoyed scuba diving. That was my escape. But the whole experience of living on a tiny little island is just not for me. So 3 years go by, and at that point I had been delayed. I spent 3 extra months in boot camp. I forgot to mention I got hurt in boot camp. Instead of 3 months, it took me 5.5 months. So I spent a little over 2.5 more months in boot camp than I intended to. Then I took recruiter's leave, recruiter's assistance leave around Christmas time, since I was supposed to get out of boot camp in October. I got out in December. So I took recruiter's leave so that I could stay home for the holidays, and that basically was like, I think 6 weeks to help go around schools and promote the Marines. And then I went to school and got delayed for 5 weeks there. So by the time I got to go to Hawaii, I had almost been in a year. I had been in like 8, 9. I've been in like, I think 9 months at that point. And so it's a 3-year tour, which means at the end of that, I had like 3 months left over or 4 months left over. And so there was no going to another place. So I ended up just staying in Hawaii for 3.5 years. And I didn't go anywhere else. I didn't get to come back to the East Coast. I didn't get to do the convention stuff. I basically was on a break from the life that I had thought I was going to lead, and ended up being somebody else. And the truth of the matter is, I'm very proud of that. I had a blast. It was still 4 and out for me. I made a lot of friends in the Marines. I don't have any of them anymore. I'm not in contact with any of my Marine Corps friends. I don't know where they are in the world. In fact, if any of them are watching this video, please reach out to me. I haven't heard from you in forever. At that time, I was Tyler. I was Tyler Dodd. I went by my middle name for a long time. So a lot of them know me as Tyler or Corporal Dodd because I was a corporal. I had a blast, and the work that I did there was important. I ended up falling under a master sergeant who understood that my skills were way beyond what a warehouseman can do. And when I first got there, our warehouse was a complete disaster. Something like half of our orders couldn't be fulfilled. That meant that we said we had things on the shelf that just simply didn't exist, or we couldn't find them. And we had to move our warehouse into a new facility. It was like across the parking lot that had been revamped. And my master sergeant saw my capabilities and put me in charge of that move behind the scenes. I was a lance corporal at the time, and I basically ran the move. And then once we made the move, I wrote software to automate our receiving department and make sure that things were labeled properly. We got label printers that I programmed for printing labels. We got scanners so that we could scan quickly. And we set up our new warehouse, and we went from having half of our orders not being able to be fulfilled to less than 0.5%, like less than 1% of our orders were not able to be fulfilled. And so I got achievements for that. I got what are known as Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals, or NAM medals. They're basically like they're a very high honor in the Marine Corps. It's like saying you did something exceptional, and I got 2 of those in my time for the work that I did at the warehouse. So I got to do software. I actually wrote software for our warehouse. I also wrote software for a civilian warehouse who was having issues with their inventory and their shipping and receiving, and I got to go help them and write software for them. So it ended up being a really amazing experience. It ended up learning at that point in time that I didn't want to write software because I got burned out doing it. I got like to the point where I was by myself writing my own software in a vacuum with no help, and it was really tough. And I ended up moving away from the software community altogether for 15 years before I came back and decided to be a programmer again. But I learned a lot. I got hurt. I have disability from the Marines, 10% disabled, so I'm not super disabled, but I hurt both of my knees. And they pay me a little bit for that. So I spent the last 6 months or so on the island on what's called I forget what it's called now. Med board. Basically like a medical board that says you're either going to stay or you're going to get kicked out of the Marines if you can't get better. But I had such a short time left. They just let me finish my contract and leave. So it wasn't a huge issue. That's it. Yeah. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. 3.5 years. Didn't do a whole lot. I got out right before September 11th, and I was not recalled probably because I was in school as well as had just filed for disability. So that's the story. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. If you are any of my old Marine Corps friends or know any of them, please get in contact with me. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Oh, my unit was CSSG 3, Combat Service Support Group 3. I don't think it exists anymore. It's something completely different now. Today's word you should know to sound smart is galleon. It is a noun meaning a Mediterranean sailing vessel used by explorers for ocean voyages. The galleons of the Spanish fleet sailed annually from Seville to Panama to Cartagena. I don't know what I said there. Galleon, Galleon. I don't even think I said it correctly the second time. Cartagena? I don't know. I have a clue how to say that.